Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we are wrestling with a question that sits right at the intersection of, Silicon Valley futurism and some extremely rigid international law.
Mm.
AI promises this automated lights-out efficiency, but how does that vision really hold up against the reality of global payroll?
It's the ultimate stress test for automation, isn't it? We've got a fascinating stack of sources here focused squarely on the execution challenges,
Right.
specifically the challenges of implementing AI across these huge multinational organizations. We're talking ones that operate in 50 or more different jurisdictions.
50. That is a staggering scale.
Yeah.
So our mission for this deep dive is to extract the essential, the actionable insights on how, or maybe even you can balance efficiency, compliance, and perfect accuracy when you're dealing with thousands of legal permutations all at once.
Exactly. And when these organizations scale, they're not just dealing with, a few different tax rates.
No.
They are running headfirst into a wall of diverse labor laws, unique social contribution requirements, and tax regimes that can fundamentally redefine what an employee even is, depending on the country.
And I think the most important insight, which we really need to get to right away, is that the critical challenge here isn't really the AI's capability.
Not at all.
It's the structural foundational mess that's being asked to clean up.
Absolutely. The machine might be brilliant, but if the house is built on quicksand, it doesn't really matter. And the first piece of quicksand we need to dig into is just the sheer regulatory scale and volatility.
Okay, let's unpack that, starting with jurisdictional complexity. It's not just a matter of saying, okay, we comply with France and Germany. It's way more granular than that.
That's the subtlety that kills compliance teams. Our sources really highlight that the complexity goes so much deeper than the national level. You often have states or provinces or regions within a single country that have their own distinct rules for minimum wage, how overtime is calculated, specific local tax withholding.
And even different reporting deadlines from the capital city.
Exactly. Which means one AI system has to be sophisticated enough to interpret thousands of these permutations across that entire 50-plus country map.
And then synthesize all that information into a single, accurate outcome for every single employee globally.
That's the functionality you need. The core challenge that was cited in the material is, and I'm quoting here, keeping payroll rules current across dozens of jurisdictions while ensuring absolute correctness.
And the key word there is current, because these aren't static variables.
No, that's the volatility factor. Regulations are constantly moving targets, which means your AI needs to be ready for continuous, sometimes immediate disruption.
And this is where the legal risk just explodes, I imagine.
It does. Regulations frequently change, and sometimes, and this is the critical part, they change retroactively.
Oh, that's a nightmare.
It is. Imagine having to recalculate 6 months of pay for every employee in a region because a new pension law was passed and dated back to January 1st.
An AI system needs to handle that without a person stepping in.
Precisely. If that system doesn't immediately adapt and create a traceable audit trail of that change, you're facing immediate penalties, delayed payments, and frankly, a huge reputational risk. It means the AI engines need embedded version control, audit trails, change management, all built right in.
Okay, so the rules are constantly shifting, but even if you have perfect rules, the system is only as good as the data it's running on. Which brings us right to the next big technical hurdle. Data integrity.
Yeah, the system integration headaches. This is the historical baggage problem. AI needs standardized, high-quality data to function. It just does. But what stands in the way for so many of these companies is just decades of technical debt.
You're talking about legacy payroll systems that can barely speak to each other, fragmented HR systems, inconsistent employee master data across all those jurisdictions.
Exactly. If your inputs are a mess, your AI outputs will be a mess. It's the ultimate garbage in, garbage out scenario.
And you can multiply that complexity when you start thinking about the normalization requirement.
Oh, absolutely. So let's say you have data flowing in from North America, Europe, Asia. These systems all define pay categories differently.
Right.
One region might call it a travel allowance, another calls it a mobility stipend, but they're fundamentally the same thing for tax purposes.
So the AI can't just process that raw. It has to harmonize it, normalize it, before it even starts calculating.
Exactly. The model has to handle specific things like currency conversion, sometimes based on an exchange rate from the middle of the month, or time zone differences for hourly workers. It has to reconcile all these local allowance types and map everything into one standard format.
And if you don't do that intense layer of normalization up front, accuracy suffers immediately.
It does.
And the number of people you need to fix the mistakes goes up, which completely defeats the whole point of automation in the first place.
It does. It turns the AI from a cost saver into a cost generator because
Right.
you've just automated the task of creating new and much harder to find errors.
Okay, so let's shift to the promise then. What's the major value proposition here when it is integrated properly? I'm seeing continuous compliance monitoring.
The potential is transformative, especially for proactive risk management. An AI can detect really subtle anomalies in a pay run. It can flag unexpected deductions, identify potentially misclassified workers.
Like employee versus contractor.
Exactly. Is this person an employee or a contractor based on, evolving local labor law? It can do all of that in near real time.
That real-time aspect is crucial. The sources pointed to a specific use case, leveraging AI to identify risks in jurisdictions known for high volatility. I think it was certain African regions where pension rules can change really frequently with almost no notice.
That speed is the game changer. But deploying AI for compliance automation brings up some significant legal hurdles. The main one is explainability.
Meaning transparency, right?
It's more than just transparency, it's traceability, it's legal justification. If an auditor or a regulator asks why a specific tax rate was applied, the AI system has to provide a clear, step-by-step explanation of its logic.
And link it directly back to the active regulation at that specific time.
Yes. The system cannot be a silent black box just spitting out answers.
Explainability is vital for legal reasons, but it also hits internal trust, which brings us to the operational reality here. Organizational hurdles and governance. How do you make sure this incredibly complex system isn't just a mysterious black box that nobody trusts?
That lack of trust is the biggest organizational hurdle. First, you have change management. Payroll professionals are, by their nature, risk-averse. They have to be. So they have to adapt to totally new workflows. They have to learn to trust the AI's calculations and still maintain manual oversight during that transition period.
And the initial cost of implementation, plus all the training for a globally dispersed team, that has to be significant.
Oh, absolutely. That expense and risk is exactly why you almost never see a big bang rollout. Smart organizations mitigate that risk with a phased rollout strategy.
So walk us through that. What does a phased rollout look like? Where do they start?
They always start with the low-risk processes first. They often use the AI almost as a safety net.
Okay.
For instance, they might deploy a tool just for anomaly detection. It just checks the final figures that were calculated by the old system, and it flags anything that looks weird. Since the AI isn't calculating the pay, only checking it, the risk is really low, and trust builds over time.
And then they scale up.
Only after that success do they scale up to using the AI for the actual calculations and the full jurisdictional compliance.
That makes a lot of sense. So once the AI moves into that calculation phase, what does robust governance actually look like?
Governance is the framework that prevents that black box problem. It has to include role-based access controls, comprehensive audit logs detailing every single decision, periodic model validation to make sure the AI hasn't degraded,
And clear escalation processes for when the AI finds something that genuinely needs a human to review and sign off on.
Yes. Without that robust governance, we keep coming back to that central risk, opacity. The system becomes opaque, trust erodes, and hidden errors, the kind that only surface during a really costly external audit, they just become inevitable.
Right. If the system fails that explainability test under pressure, the whole investment is compromised.
It doesn't matter how efficient it was day to day. Exactly.
Okay, let's turn this whole conversation into some actionable takeaways.
Yeah.
It seems like a roadmap sort of emerged from the source material, some practical recommendations for actually making this work.
This is really the synthesis of everything we've been discussing. And these 6 practices reveal that success really hinges on preparation, not just algorithmic power.
Okay, let's detail them. First, we need to reiterate the strategy. Phased implementation.
Yes. Start with a manageable scope. Focus on a few low-volatility jurisdictions or simpler rule sets first. Perfect the workflow, prove the concept, and only then do you expand. Trying to solve for 50 countries at once is a guarantee for an expensive failure.
Second, the foundation. Data harmonization. This seems like the absolute prerequisite.
It is non-negotiable. Organizations have to dedicate real resources to standardizing their data formats, their classifications, their currencies, before that data ever touches the AI engine.
So everyone agrees, for example, that maternity leave is coded the exact same way in every country.
Even if the legal requirements underneath it are totally different. Yes. If you skip this step, the model fails spectacularly.
Third, the balance of power. Local expert input. The machine can't go it alone.
Absolutely not. AI cannot replace jurisdictional expertise. The technology has to be combined with human oversight. That local expert in Brazil or the UK is essential for validating that the AI is interpreting nuanced, context-dependent rules correctly.
Especially when legal change can be subtle.
Very subtle and context-driven, yes.
Fourth, the trust factor. Establish governance.
We've covered this, but it is the cornerstone. Document everything. Rules, decisions, exceptions. Provide that explainability for every payroll action, validate the models regularly, ideally quarterly, and just monitor the system outputs meticulously.
Fifth, managing the speed of change. Keep compliance current.
This means investing in high-speed change detection and update mechanisms. If a new tax treaty or a retroactive regulation is announced, the system needs to ingest and implement that update immediately.
And seamlessly, without manual reprogramming.
Which is a huge technical ask, yes.
And finally, the refinement loop. Monitor outcomes.
This is just continuous improvement. You have to continuously track every error, every finding from audits, all user feedback. This creates a closed loop that refines the system and makes it more accurate over time.
This has been a really insightful breakdown. I mean, to synthesize our discussion, the potential for AI to drive massive efficiency here is real, but the true test is all in the execution. It's about managing that structural complexity while ensuring absolute accuracy, traceability, and resilience.
And what's really fascinating here is that the high-tech challenge, the AI algorithm itself, is often the easiest part. The overwhelming hurdle is in the foundational problems. Cleaning up fragmented data, harmonizing decades of disparate systems, and just coping with the sheer velocity of global legal change.
You have to clean your house before you invite the supercomputer in.
That's a perfect way to put it.
Which leaves us with one final provocative thought for you to consider. If constant legal change requires human experts to continuously validate and update these complex AI models, does the true long-term value of AI in global payroll lie less in achieving that full, lights-out automation, and more in its ability to serve as an indispensable high-speed compliance and risk detection partner for expert human teams? Something to mull over until our next deep dive.